Resources and Corporate Committee. And it's good to see you all here. Thank you for coming. So today's agenda is about finances and budgets. And obviously, it's in the context of a very difficult time for local government. I'm well aware of the scale of the financial challenges that you are all facing. I know we're all making pleas to government about the need to urgently resolve the challenge. Today's conversation is about the CA's business planning and budget processes, and there's no doubt that devolution is working for West Yorkshire. The strength of our partnership working means we're delivering on our West Yorkshire plan as we create a region that works for all. Despite the wider challenges, together we've supported the creation of thousands of jobs, we've landed investment from cutting-edge companies, lowered bus fares, helped people get the skills they need to succeed, using the freedoms and flexibilities of our £65 million adult education budget. Thanks to devolution, we've received an extra £2.8 billion for our region and the power to spend it on local priorities. This is crucial because we all know our area better than Whitehall. So this flexibility has enabled us to step up and support the most vulnerable in our region during the cost of living crisis. It's enabled us to return over £50 million to support you as councils and your budgets slashed by government. We're also getting things built and helping connect our region and the wider north. In Bradford, we're supporting the transformation of the city centre, making it easier for people to walk, cycle and use public transport. In Calderdale, we've redeveloped Halifax bus station, making an enormous difference in the centre of the town, and beautiful it is too. In Kirklees, we're working with Kirklees to upgrade the Dewsbury bus station, amongst many other things. And in Leeds, we're delivering the long-promised new gateway into the city from Leeds City Station alongside the council. And finally, in Wakefield, we're delivering an expansion of Normanton rail station car park as part of our rail park and ride programme. But of course, we all are more ambitious and we want to go further. You know I've written to the Chancellor ahead of his autumn statement, urging him to match our ambitions through a commitment to deeper devolution with a single funding pot to enable us to deliver on our ambitious plans. Together, we are going to continue delivering for the people of West Yorkshire, going from strength to make sure this region works for all. So thank you for listening to the opening remarks. And now, any apologies, Ben?
We've had apologies from Councillor Jeffrey and Councillor Scott, for whom we've got Councillor Morley and Councillor Davies substituting today.
Thank you, and you're both very welcome. Any declarations of interest? Any interest anyone would like to declare? No, thank you. Exclusion of press and public. There are no items that require exclusion. So moving on to item 4, minutes of the meeting, 7th of June. Are there any comments, questions, additions or changes? No. We're content to confirm them as an accurate record. Great stuff. Okie doke. So item 5, organisational performance. This is the regular quarterly corporate performance report for quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 23-24. This measures our progress as an organisation in delivery of our corporate objectives. So I'd like to ask Alan to take us through the paper in more detail.
Great, thank you very much, Mayor. So, as Mayor said, this sets out performance against our organisational objectives for the first half of this financial year. This is a bit of a new format, so we'd really welcome views on presentation. There's quite a lot of complex information here that we're trying to present in a simple way and tell a story about what the combined authority is delivering with partners. It starts with revisiting the West Yorkshire Plan and the 5 missions which were published in the summer. It's worth just noting that performance of the region as a whole is set out in the annual State of the Region report, not this one. This is about what the organisation has delivered and is delivering against its business plan. The organisation's got 7 corporate objectives which contribute towards the delivery of the West Yorkshire Plan, and under each of those objectives is a series of business plan outcomes that previously have been set on an annual basis, and in a later paper on the agenda we'll come into what we're doing to make that more of a multi-year process. And performance against each of those objectives is reported on a monthly basis within the organisation. In addition to those objectives which are about improving outcomes and lives of people in the region. There are also some objectives around improving the organisation. Across the organisation, there are 285 objectives, and 90% of them are currently at blue or amber for the year. We've also got a number of corporate plan targets, which are specific measurables, which were highlighted in the corporate plan and are set out at Appendix 2, and most of those are on track as well. Some particular highlights that I'll draw out, some of which the Mayor has mentioned in her introductory remarks. So firstly, good progress on our new business support programmes around productivity, startups and sustainability, delivery of the new bus station at Halifax, on target to increase our M-card sales by app. We're on track to complete a number of infrastructure schemes under the Transport Fund, Transforming Cities Fund, and the City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement this year. And there are a range of services that we are commissioning that are targeted to increase community safety and support victims and witnesses of crime. Drawing attention to some risks, though, so there are some challenges around delivery of zero-emission buses. That's not that they won't be delivered; it's that they won't be delivered all this year. So some of the numbers slip into next year. So it's a timing thing rather than the case of it not being delivered. There's an innovation programme which is behind where we wanted it to be because of the need to recruit staff into that programme, and that is a theme that I think lots of partners are facing, is the challenge of recruiting people with necessary skill sets in the current labour market. Thirdly, there's a need for us to review the operating model for Access Bus. On the delivery of homes, 5,000 sustainable and affordable homes, the national figures on this will become available in later this month, and then we'll have a better idea of where we're at and be able to be more confident about the delivery figures for the year. And then there are a number of internal pressures to draw attention to around our website and the way we're presented digitally, our new financial systems, which come online this month. And finally, the organisation is just in a huge amount of change, and we need to support our colleagues through that change. Just finally, a mention for our Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Plan, which we've published, which includes some targets, and we've begun reporting on these. They're also set out at Appendix 1, and we've got some reds in there. They're being mitigated through the new HR system, which is coming online, which will improve our data around EDI, particularly internally, and also there's some training that we need to commission for colleagues across the organisation, particularly on equality impact assessments. So I just wanted to summarise the report. There's obviously a lot in there. I'm very happy to take questions, and then there are a number of colleagues around the table who can also assist.
Thank you. Just on that last point, do you have a sort of time frame of when these will go from red to green? Obviously, we're waiting for that new operating system to come in.
Yeah.
Have you got a time frame?
Yes. So implementation of the new system, which is called CI Anywhere, our integrated corporate systems, which brings together finance, HR, and payroll, is in the process of being implemented now. So we're currently migrating all of our data over to that system. It will become live for colleagues across the organisation from the 13th of November. So just under 2 weeks' time will be the date when everybody in the organisation starts to use it. It's not a big bang, so it will come online, and then there will be a number of incremental improvements that happen over a number of months. So, for example, there will be new modules in there around training and development and progression, which will take some time to bed in. And from a finance perspective, clearly the system's coming in right in the middle of the business planning and budgeting cycle. So whilst there will be some fruits that we get from it this year, actually it will be future years when the greater benefits are delivered.
Certainly just focusing on the SMT EQI.
Yeah.
It would be great as well, just to get some impact there.
Yeah, so with the EQIA training, so over the course of the last year, we commissioned a company called Indiverse to deliver some foundation training on equity, diversity and inclusion, which we've just received the report on, which has been very good, and we've reached pretty much everybody in the organisation with that. There is a need for us to commission it again on a rolling basis, and also for us to commission quality impact assessment training for a range of colleagues across the organisation. And it's important that training is done, and the reason SMT is mentioned, that it's not just colleagues who are producing the business cases, producing the policies, who then have to, as part of that process, write EQAAs. But it's about leadership. So SMT being the senior management team. Apologies for the acronym. So that's all heads of service within the organisation. Everybody needs to be leading on, confident in leading from an EDI perspective, and challenging their teams to make sure that they are properly considering EDI objectives right from the beginning of the process.
Great stuff. So it would just be good to know when that might be rolled out across the senior management team. Great stuff. Thank you.
Sorry, so you're right. I didn't answer your question, which was about timing. So we are right in the middle of scoping the procurement for it, so that will go live within a matter of weeks.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. I just wanted to say something a bit more about a couple of items in this paper where there's a degree of slippage and what we're doing about it as a combined authority and as the Climate Committee. And the first of those is the flooding schemes. Got 9 flooding schemes. A couple got full approval, a couple are on site, one in appraisal, and the rest still working on them. And one of the things I don't think is a problem for the other committees quite so much as this is the nesting season. That actually, that there are windows there where you can actually take forward some of these schemes, and if you miss that window, and then planning permission and the supply chain and so on and contractors slips. But I just wanted to plea, it might look poor given the climate change that we're experiencing and the fact that we need these schemes. These are absolutely great schemes that complement the schemes councils are doing, the Environment Agency and other partners are doing, but also they are difficult, sometimes very difficult and complex schemes. The other thing I just wanted to mention, Mayor, was the retrofit schemes. We are looking very closely, and we still think that we will get very near the targets that we've set on retrofit. But I just wanted to say something that's being reported about how burdensome central government are being around this scheme, asking for additional information, asking for reprofiling, those kind of things at the last minute. And officers are having to spend time on central government bureaucracy rather than what we thought was the deal, which was the money would come to us and we'd make sure we get it out. But certainly in retrofit, we're not letting that stop us. We're carrying on focusing on as many as we can get through. Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to retrofit in particular. Our Better Homes Hub is our ambition, and I spoke to the Infrastructure Bank yesterday about how can we work with them to turbocharge our ambitious plans. But if government are holding us back, we have to find a way to circumvent government and just start doing it ourselves. I feel for you because this is not devolution. We've got the money and our hands are tied. Susan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just the equality, diversity KPIs you've got in there. They are very internally focused. Really, service delivery is where it's at from Bradford's point of view. So, are you able to develop more EDI stats for service delivery in the future? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So that you're absolutely right. Those are the internally focused EDI targets that are about the organisation. There are a range of other EDI targets which are built into the business plans of the programmes that we're delivering. So, for example, the business support programmes that we deliver have got targets in them around ethnicity and disability and gender. So, for instance, I can't remember the figures precisely, but there are targets on, for instance, our programmes around startups and innovation. There are specific targets within there which are about how many businesses are we supporting that have either female or either female-led or led by somebody with a disability or led by someone from a Black, Asian or minority ethnic background. So those targets are built into they're built in elsewhere. I completely accept that table is about the organisational objectives.
If I could just say the Enterprise West Yorkshire scheme, the 6 million, that has very reassuring numbers actually. Over 60%, I think it might be 62% of people who've got the money are female-led companies, and BAME are at pace with it reflects the percentage of people in West Yorkshire who are black, Asian, minority ethnic. But we could get those figures for you to reassure you. And certainly the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, 43% of the last cohort had a disability. You can't get change unless you have those targets. So I think it's really important that we monitor our ambitions. And if we're hitting those targets, then let's get a stretch target. Susan.
So yeah, I mean, that's great, and I think we've made great progress in all that. I just wonder if there's a way of representing some of that service delivery KPIs at this level, so that we hold ourselves to account for it, and particularly about, I suppose, about the volume of spend, how much of that is also governed by EDI targets. So obviously we have individual programmes. Can we look at the the spend as a whole? I just wonder if there's a different way of doing it. I don't have the answer, but I would like us to have a look at that a little bit further. Thank you.
Moving on to item 6, the finance update. This is the usual update on finance, and it provides the current position on Q1 and a confirmation of the draft results for 2022-23. And it provides the closing position on capital and revenue expenditure and income for 22-23. That's still subject to external audit. And it then provides the Q1 position for 23-24, which at this stage is showing income and expenditure broadly in line with the agreed budget. A later paper on the agenda considers the approach to 24-25 alongside business planning. So, Angela, if you would like to just take us through the paper in a bit more detail.
I will, thank you, Mayor. As you've said there, this is the regular item that comes to this committee. It's a little bit of a catch-up, bringing you up to date, just the way the timing of these meetings have fallen. So it's a bit of an update on the year-end position, Q1 position, and Q2 we're just in the middle of finalising. So, as expected, as reported back in February when the budget was approved for current year and the revised forecast was approved, it was noted that for a variety of reasons there was going to be a set aside to bus or transport reserve and a transfer to capital arising from surplus bank interest. Those did come to pass. We managed to get those figures up a little bit, and they are intended to transfer into those reserves to be drawn down during this year and future years. We'll play that back out through the budget discussions, and you'll see those figures and how those sums are utilised to support the pressure on bus services, which is a whole separate topic in itself when we get to the budget discussions, and on capital, where I think you've already seen in recent months the result of the inflation reviews, where we've had to rethink some of the capital delivery. So it's not a huge amount, but it does, every little helps to support that inflation on the capital programme. And there's a lot of detail there on the capital programme outturn. So it's obviously there for your information. The little graph hopefully shows the trajectory is very much upwards. And I think the Mayor said in her introduction about the amount of money that's coming to us, and you can see some of that flowing through in the capital spend figures. So there's some detail on each of the different programme areas. Obviously, we're now some months beyond that, and delivery is marching onwards, but it's confirmation of where we got to. In terms of the Q1, as you said, we are broadly in line with where we expected to be. We've included the snapshot of the gain share, which again will be coming forward as part of budget discussions about how we use future tranches of gain share. That's prioritised. And just a final caveat, it's referenced in the paper that the figures are presented for the March year end are still awaiting audit. A number of people around this table are on our Governance and Audit Committee and are fully aware of the reasons for our audit being delayed, along with almost all other audits nationally. So they are draft figures, but we are comfortable they are correct, and that we are happy to use those going forward. Happy to take any questions on any or all of that, but it is at this stage for noting and is obviously giving us the starting point for the budget discussions, which we are in the depths of and we'll be coming back to future committees with.
Thank you, Angela. And as I always say in this committee, we have to deliver and spend this money. We cannot be sat on money. When we are saying to government we want a trailblazer deal, we are mature enough to deliver. Just on the Brownfield Housing Fund, the actual spend was lower than anticipated. We know why, but would this potentially impact opportunities to get further funding for Brownfield?
We hope not. As you've said, there are a number of reasons why the brownfield housing spend has been extremely challenging, primarily many of the conditions put around that funding. We are currently in the midst of quite a number of mitigations to try and ensure that we do hit the deadline of next March to get most of that money spent. So I think we're confident that we are demonstrating we can deliver. It's a difficult environment to deliver in, but we are making it happen. And I think the team are confident we should get a good amount of it through ahead of the deadline, and everything else would be in contract in time. So it shouldn't impact on our ability to draw down future funding.
Thank you. And I wonder if there's any opportunity for alignment with HR, that where the projects where we're not delivering because of internal vacancies, that becomes a priority for HR, because we have got to make sure that just because we can't recruit doesn't mean we can't deliver. So I wonder if there's any opportunity to draw those two bits of data together.
Yes, we can certainly look at how we represent that back to you. We're very much looking at how we do deploy people and can move people from one area to another. Some areas need specialist input. The brownfield housing is probably a good example, but it's not all specialists. Some of it is good project managers, and we are looking. Alan and the HR team are very much looking at how we use the people we've got to best effect against the priorities that we've got, and hoping to move that forward.
And just before I open it up, one more question, just on the Getting Building Fund. We always thought that this fund is an opportunity for training, skills, learners. Could you just explain why the number of new learners assisted, the target was 200 and we didn't achieve any? It's in the box.
I think some of this is a timing issue, because some of the spend had to happen in a certain time, but the outcomes are measured over a longer time. Because in many of these, we input to the schemes at the beginning, and the scheme, the full project was being delivered with local authority or other partners' money. What I will do is just check that the future figures, which aren't in here, this is showing what we've got at that point. It doesn't show the gap of what we're still hoping to achieve. So I'll make sure that gets added in future.
I'm really grateful, thank you. And this is just for my own understanding, we can take this offline. If you could talk to me about 2023-24 Q1 reporting, the Combined Authority reporting Q1 overall position materially in line with budget, with the net revenue position being expenditure of 6,000, compares to a budgeted position of net income of 23. I don't understand that. So maybe you could just tell me, because I'm sure I won't be the only person not understanding that.
That's fine, and we will happily look at how we present this to make it as user-friendly as possible. What we're saying is we had a level of income and a level of expenditure that when you take one from the other, we expected to have an extra leftover money of 23,000 at this point. What we've got is 6,000 the other way. So the net difference, we're only saying we spent 29,000 pounds different to what we expected. But we'll represent that in a different way for you, understand the question, and we can make that simpler for everybody.
Appreciated, thank you. Simple is always best, isn't it? Any questions on the finance point? Yes, Susan.
Thank you. It just says obviously there's been an expected surplus on bank interest. Could you tell us how much you budgeted for bank interest and how much there actually is projected to be this year? Thank you.
I can. I'm just trying to think if I've got the figures, whether I should just check them quickly. In essence, the figures we've got for the year end to March, the figure shown in the table is the surplus above what we would normally expect to get.
Can you direct us to that in the report?
Sorry, it's in 2.2. So last year we got an additional 5 million of bank interest. This year we're expecting it to be...
Sorry, where are you looking at?
Sorry, paragraph 2.2, the little table that says transfer to capital, that is in effect the surplus on bank interest. So the 5.7 million transfer to capital is what we're proposing, is the surplus. That's last year, correct?
This current year?
Current year we are looking, we're expecting to get 20 million plus. We didn't put that full amount in the budget, but I'd like to just check the figure rather than try and remember it. But I can look that up for you and let you know at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, and a very, very good point, how much that interest is and where can we use that to best effect. Okie doke, moving on then to the Gateway Review evaluation. This provides an update on the progress to date with the Gateway Review. As members will remember, it's a requirement of funding under our two deals with government, the growth deal and the devolution deal. Our success in this process is crucial in unlocking the next 5 years worth of funding under these two deals. So the work has an important role in demonstrating our ability to manage these investment funds. This strengthens our position in the context of our ambition to achieve trailblazer status. It also sets out the governance arrangements for this important work, the risks, the issues, the mitigations, and a detailed project timetable which details key activities over the coming period. Effective stakeholder engagement will be needed in order to ensure success, and the approach to comms is therefore also highlighted. Can I take this moment to thank our colleagues in this team who have really had to wrangle two different funding streams with changing expectations from government, it seems, on an hourly basis. So I want to thank them publicly for the work that they've done so far, because we have to prove we can manage large amounts of money to deliver on budget, on time, for the people of West Yorkshire if we're going to move to the next stage. So Alan, can you take us through it?
I can, Mayor, although I probably have very little to add to what you have just said. So if it's okay, can we bring in Anna Woodhouse to go into the detail?
Anna.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really pleased to report that we've made very significant progress, particularly in the last 3 months. We've now got a small project team in place. We're treating this as a project at present, but the intention is to draw learning that will embed this as business as usual going forward, because it is going to be an ongoing requirement. So, as the Mayor said, the paper provides updates on progress, specifically around governance, risks and issues, communications activity and stakeholder engagement. And I'll just touch briefly on a few of those issues. So starting with the government's arrangements, the project board is really important in ensuring feed-in and shared ownership from key stakeholders, as well as strategic steer. It's important in mitigating risks, providing assurance to government that the process is in hand, and supporting wider stakeholder engagement. So, as noted in the paper and as the Mayor's mentioned, effective comms is really important in engaging colleagues and partners to help us tell our story. So we've been rolling out several streams of comms activity. We've got the online stakeholder survey live currently, which is part of the midterm review work. We've also submitted our local evaluation framework, which was an absolutely huge undertaking. As the Mayor says, bringing those two funds into one single process. It's called a framework, it's actually a very detailed plan. And this has enabled us, now that we've got that finalised, to move forward with work for the midterm review, which is currently underway, as well as the tender process for the final evaluation. So we've had to undertake several tasks concurrently to get us on track. There's been a bit of a delay on the midterm review, but by undertaking things at the same time, we are on track now for the final reporting deadline, which is in October next year, but we need to submit all evidence really by July, August next year for review by the consultants that have been appointed by government, SQW. They function as an independent evaluation panel who are supporting us through this process. They've devised the process in collaboration with government and the templates that we need to use. So I'll pause there and invite questions.
Thank you. And obviously others are going through this same pain. Who have you been working with, other MCAs who are going through a similar process?
Yeah, we had a good meeting last week with representatives from DLUC, Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, SQW, the consultants and the other areas. We collaborated previously with Greater Manchester, Cambridge, Glasgow, as part of the Cohort 1. So we have drawn learning from that past experience. That time it was just the growth deal and specifically the transport fund that was in scope. Now we've also got the gain share. So we've sort of got two different time phases as well for the two funds. which adds to the complexity of the process. But yeah, we are collaborating with colleagues in other areas. They're experiencing similar challenges, which is always reassuring in a way. And we're able to share experience, knowledge, insights of how we can navigate this process.
Thank you so much. And I think your approach to telling the story of what we're achieving is also as important as the numbers sometimes, isn't it? Any comments on the Gateway Review? No, lovely. Moving on, business planning and budgets. This provides an update to the committee on the multi-year business and budget planning adopted for 24-25 and sets out the approach that's been used, timeline of activities to make sure our plans are ready for approval February 24. So, Alan, I'd like to, if you could take us through the paper, thanks.
Great, thank you, Matt. So, as we have done last year, we're starting from the outcomes that we're looking to achieve, and in particular, looking at what the ambitions are that are set out in the West Yorkshire Plan and what the organisation's contribution towards those missions are. And so the entire business plan is linked back to the outcomes that we're looking to achieve. We're moving as far as we can to a multi-year process, so partly due to the change that the organisation has gone through over the last few years, we've tended to run a cycle which is pretty annual, pretty short term. We're trying to move to a position where we're looking much more over the longer term. The plan, as the Mayor said, will bring an outline to the combined authority in December and then final budgets and business plans to be published at the February CA. It's our first time that we've done our business planning since we restructured the organisation. As you know, we went through a major restructure last year to focus the organisation much more around outcomes, and as well as developing plans that are about the delivery of our programmes, outputs, outcomes, etc. We've also got a number of projects which are about improving the way that the organisation operates, and in particular, building the capacity and capability necessary in the organisation to deliver the major programmes that are coming, for instance, mass transit. So where we are at the moment in terms of process is building an understanding across the organisation of what the various major pressures are so that we can understand the key moving parts and what the choices and trade-offs are in advance of providing advice to members around the end of the year. So that's it in terms of updates. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thanks. We've spoken on a number of occasions about how we make ourselves more self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. And in 2.7 it says current levels of income generation have been reviewed and challenged in order to identify ways of increasing the funding envelope. Mm-hmm. It'd be good to have some idea of what they might look like. Would that be Angela? Angela.
It is, thank you. We are challenging this throughout the sort of budget process from different parts of the organisation, whether it is charging for some of the services we provide, whether it is what we can generate from the assets we own, but it's also the conversations that have been being developed over the last year with the likes of the Pension Fund, with UKIB, with other people out there who have similar interests, want to make things happen. And so that it's any third party we can find whose interests are aligned with ours. So whether it's projects on climate, whether it's projects on whether we can help co-fund things on housing. So we are casting our net far and wide. And if anyone has any suggestions they wish to forward to us, happy to consider those as well. We're not saying no to anything. We're still in relatively early days of reaching out to different organisations, but that is a task which you'll see coming through in the business plan across multiple different fronts.
Thanks. It would be nice maybe in sometime in the future to have a paper on the innovations around being strategic with our finances for future conversations. I think also government will potentially look to us with a single settlement to be able to use that money wisely, of course, but also creatively to make sure that we make the most of it. Susan.
Yeah, obviously in all this we need to keep delivering, as you said, and I wouldn't mind, and I think it has been, you said it had been reviewed, but I've not seen the latest of it, is that £600 million transport reserve. So how are we using that and how does that fit into this budget planning?
Angela?
Yeah, the The 600 million is the cash in the bank,
Yeah.
which is generating interest,
Yeah.
which we do expect to be about at least 11 million higher than what we expected at the start of the year. The transport reserve is now down to almost zero because we've repaid that back out to local authorities as agreed.
600 million.
The 600 million is cash, which is the result of timing differences. So I think what we need to show you is that money is actually, it's a combination of CRSTS money, it's active travel,
Yes.
it's grant money that is in people's programmes to spend, but we have not yet spent it, but it is allocated out.
So I'd like
So
us to
think
see
give that reassurance that that money isn't
Yeah.
free money in inverted commas, that it all has a home it is going to across a range of different projects. But we can show you that as part of the budget.
you.
Thank you. Any further comments? No? Brilliant, thank you. Moving on to item 8, recruitment of the independent member. This relates to, as I mentioned, recruitment to the Finance Resources and Corporate Committee. This was agreed at the CA, October the 12th. You'll remember that as a member of the committee, the former LEP chair gave us that really invaluable financial and business expertise and advice, which added real value to the work of this committee. I'd like to see a similar role supporting our work, and I'm pleased to say that at the last meeting, the CA agreed to recruit and co-opt an independent member to FRCC to provide that expertise and that check and challenge to our roles. As you heard earlier, what does this mean? It would be helpful if we had somebody that could talk me through it early on. Recruitment is currently underway with a view to the CA making an appointment in December to enable a successful candidate to attend the January meeting of this committee. Can we note this decision of the CA to recruit an independent member to the committee and the proposed timeline? All noted? Lovely, thank you. Right, moving on to the meat of the meeting, which is project approvals. I will pass over to Simon for that. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as per your introduction at the start of the meeting, we are continuing to make really good progress across what is a very wide-ranging transport investment programme that's supported by a number of funding sources, as we just touched on before. This paper sets out 3 updates and requests to progress across the development of our M-Card app, delivery of a new cycle superhighway in Bradford, and expansion of our bus service improvement plan. And what I'm now going to do is to hand over to our project leads to further set out the proposals for the committee, starting with Randall Gent, who's the project lead for the M-Card app.
Thank you very much. As some of you may know, in the BSIP there was a plan to invest in the M-Card mobile app. It's an increasingly important retail channel, means for customers to easily get on bus and rail and improve that overall experience. So this is a CRSTS funded scheme intended to make a suite of enhancements to the app. Since the app's launch in September 2020, weekly ticket sales have gone from about 6,000 per year to 381,000 in 2023. And now 85%, actually it's more like 87% now of M-Card off-bus sales are through the app. This investment will allow the Combined Authority to establish the app as the best source of bus ticketing and information in West Yorkshire and improve the passenger experience at the pre-journey and boarding stages as outlined in the BSIP. Total cost of the scheme is $525,000, including evaluation. The Combined Authority is asked to approve the total sum. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great outcome. And I'm always proud that the M-Card is the most sophisticated travel card outside of the Oyster, and managed to make a great deal of the fact that they now have an integrated card. So we're ahead of the game. So I'm glad to see the growth. Have we got any comments on the M-Card? Are we happy to approve? No. We are. Good stuff. Moving on. Thank you. The superhighway?
Okay, so the full West Bradford Cycle Superhighway Extension Scheme will be approximately 7.5 kilometres of high quality cycle infrastructure, with a significant proportion of the route being segregated using a combination of bidirectional and unidirectional segregated cycle facilities. The proposals also include improved provision and segregation for cyclists at key junctions and crossings along the route. The route follows Sunbridge Road from the city centre and then continues on Thornton Road from the junction of City Road. The scheme consists of two core sections, the first running between the city centre to just west of Cemetery Road, which is phase 1, and the second between Cemetery Road and Thornton, which is phase 2. Phase 1 is at decision point 4, full business case, and phase 2 is at decision point 3, outline business case. Overall, the scheme is aiming to encourage mode shift and the reduction of car trips by 10% by 2036. Increase the number of people who are able to access Bradford City Centre using sustainable modes within 30 minutes by 25% by 2025. Contribute to our net zero targets with a reduction in carbon output from travel along the corridor by 25% by 2036. And also improve air quality along the Thornton Road corridor. Phase 1 of the scheme comes forward with a total cost of £12,064,636, which is an increase of £2,924,636 from the OBC estimate, and is to be fully funded by the Combined Authorities Transforming Cities Fund. Delivery of Phase 1 is scheduled to be fully completed by June 2025 for Bradford City of Culture. Development of the Phase 2 full business case comes forward with a total cost of £1,064,793 and will be funded by the Combined Authorities Transforming Cities Fund. Funding for delivery of Phase 2 is still to be secured. So today we're asking for approval for the following. West Bradford Cycle Superhighway Phase 1 proceeds through decision point 4, full business case, and work commences on activity 5, delivery. In terms of the second bit, West Bradford Cycle Superhighway Scheme Phase 2 proceeds through decision point 3, which is outline business case, and work commences on activity 4, full business case. Approval to increase the Combined Authorities contribution from £9,140,000 for the scheme to £13,129,429. And obviously for the Combined Authority to enter into addendums to the existing funding agreements for, with Bradford Council for that expenditure for the scheme of £13,129,429.
Thank you, Simon. The increase in costs, is that inflationary?
Yes, there's three key things. It is inflation, and also there is cost increases from the design work that's gone from outline business case to full business case, because obviously in terms of the scheme, we're ensuring the scheme is aligned to the latest cycle quality standards, which is LTM 120.
And just for my understanding, is the first phase from the city centre out?
Correct.
It is.
Correct.
Right.
To the just west of Thornton Road junction.
And wouldn't it be great if we had that, obviously 2025, it's got to be delivered by, we could have the electric bike scheme rolled out from Leeds to Bradford by then, so that people can actually use it if they're not confident on a bike. Yes, Susan.
Thank you. So really obviously welcome this investment, and it is something we've looked at over a few months now, of course, as well, because of Active Travel England, and you know, they're working increasingly now with the Combined Authority, and also they made us a level 3 or something, didn't they, Active Travel England? And I think largely that's obviously Leeds have done a lot of work in this area. We obviously need to catch up on that, I think, as well. So we need to make sure that we're serious about this for cyclists and active travel walking. You're right, you know, they have changed the rules a bit recently, haven't they? And that comes from DFT, I think, rather than Active Travel England. So that obviously, again, going back to Councillor Scullion's point, it increases the cost of our local schemes when they change the rules nationally, and that's something we can ill afford at the moment. So great to see this progressing to the next stage. I think it's just worth mentioning as well for people out there that obviously a lot of our councils around this table and all of us are very stretched at the moment in terms of finances. And people wonder why we don't spend this money on things like children and adult social care, but I think we need to make it clear that we're not allowed to.
Yes.
And this money is being given to the combined authority for this purpose, and it can't just suddenly be switched on to things which are very pressing social need for all councils at the moment. So really welcome this, and just to sort of give a bit of context for why it's coming at this time and why it's being delivered. Thank you.
Thank you. And schemes like this are also part of my wider vision on Vision Zero, which we launched this week to make road deaths and serious injuries, to lower that number. Alison Lowe is chairing that board. We've invested in it, working with partners and the police, because the litmus test is, would you be confident letting your 12-year-old daughter cycle on the roads? Well, no, unless you've got these schemes where you know that they will be safe. So it's really important that we invest in this infrastructure to ensure that we have less road deaths, as well as obviously tackling the climate emergency. So are we happy to approve? We are, thank you. Okay, moving on to the final project. Simon.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So the change request that's come forward to you today for a decision, there's an awful lot of information provided around our bus services improvement programme, which hopefully you're all aware of, and it's my job to try and crystallise all that great information in the report into a couple of minutes for you, so I will do my best. So as part of the National Bus Strategy, there is a requirement on all local transport authorities to have to develop a bus services improvement plan, or BSIP. I'll refer to it from now on if you don't mind, it's a bit easier. And we had to do that, we're told we had to do that in order to be eligible for future funding to invest in our bus network in West Yorkshire. And the focus, we were told at the steer, was that it had to be focused around cheaper and simplified fares, and increased service frequency and expanded bus routes as well. So we submitted a West Yorkshire BSIP in late 2021, and it was finally approved and published in October 2022. And it focused on interventions across 5 key areas, one of which Randall's mentioned this morning already in the decision you took a few minutes ago. And the 5 key areas are around an enhanced bus network, cleaner and simpler fares, which is where the M-Card app came in, improved and more inclusive customer service, priority for buses on the highway, and then looking at getting more green and better vehicles in the bus network as well. And there's a number of objectives through our BSIP that we're working towards trying to achieve by 2025, which will soon come round. It should be noted, though, that obviously, we're still operating in a world where there's suppressed patronage following the COVID pandemic, and obviously even before the COVID pandemic, there've been a number of years of decline in the use of the bus industry and the number of passengers accessing it. So earlier this year, back in May, the government announced it was replacing its existing funding mechanisms to the bus industry that had sort of come about during the COVID pandemic, the most recent of which have been the bus recovery grant, and they were going to replace it with something called BSIP Plus. And following that announcement, they then announced through DfT that West Yorkshire was going to be awarded just a little over 3.875 million for this year, for 23-24, and then we are expecting a similar amount next year as well. And it should be noted that this sort of monies through BSIP Plus is in addition to what we've already been awarded through our BSIP, our main BSIP, which was just under £70 million of revenue funding, as I say, in October 2022. Since the papers have been published, I know there is a small reference to it, through the sort of more recent announcements by government with the Northern Network plans, we are also expecting to be in receipt of around £13 million additional BSIP money in 24-25, so that's next financial year as well, and we'll maybe need to bring something back to this committee at a further date around that. So the change request today is trying to sort of bring all that together, basically, for your approval this morning. So the the recommendations that are set out in the report on page 94 is a change request to the BSIP SOC that was approved towards the end of 2022. And so just to refer to those recommendations, obviously the BSIP is being managed as a programme by the Combined Authority. So what we want to do is extend that programme to incorporate the BSIP Plus monies that we've had awarded to us as well and manage it within that programme governance approach. So the recommendations are to accept the additional funding from BSIP Plus that's been awarded to us and incorporate that into the BSIP programme, taking the total BSIP programme cost to 77,724,512. And also because we didn't get the BSIP, our original BSIP award of just under 70 million until October 22, and the BSIP programme started from April 2022. We are also seeking an extension to our BSIP programme by a total of 1 year. So instead of completing delivery in March 2025, we complete delivery in March 2026. We're seeking approval to incorporate the BSIP Plus monies, which is focused on protection and restoration of bus services, as opposed to the BSIP money, which is around enhancement of the bus network. We're seeking approval from yourselves to incorporate that as a separate project within the BSIP programme so that it can be managed more collaboratively through a common governance and also looking at how the money is used to best effect on the network, that sort of balance between protection, restoration and enhancement across the network of West Yorkshire, and you know, including a total of 7.75 million. I'll summarise, to add into the BSIP programme overall and proceed through decision point 2, which is strategic outline case and into delivery. And then the other two recommendations is that the Combined Authority provides the funding to the bus operators for the BSIP Plus monies through the existing mechanisms, the sort of compensation arrangements that we have in place at the moment with the bus operators. And because of the agile nature of this funding, in terms of it being used around protection and restoration, we're seeking approval for the bus routes to be supported and the exact amount of money that each bus operator is delegated to be each bus operator is awarded to be delegated to the Executive Director of Transport. And then the final recommendation is that future approvals are made in accordance with the assurance pathway as set out in this report, and obviously subject to the programme remaining within the tolerance identified within the report. And where required, any future committee level approvals are delegated to the Transport Authority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. That just shows the sort of pepper pot approach from funding for the bus network from government, that, you know, we're just getting announcements where, oh, here's a bit more money, when we could have actually planned had we had prior knowledge with time to organise. So it's not working. We are obviously out to consultation with the public to see what my decision will be in March. But thank you for having to work so on an agile basis, because money coming in obviously throws things into a bit of, not chaos, but different challenges. But also to thank partners for prioritising your routes and letting us know what your communities need from this money. So it is a team effort to make sure that while we're waiting for that decision, that we use this money to make sure we have a more connected transport network that is reliable and affordable as well. So I'm really pleased that the £2 fare, we are able to continue that, and that we were one of the first adopters. So I'm very proud of West Yorkshire that we understood that what was really important for the public in a cost of living crisis was cheaper travel. Has anybody any comments on this? Susan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Braven. I think one thing I'll just mention on that, of course, is you're right, we were one of the first to do that. but we're not included de facto in the national scheme. So when they say something, it doesn't always apply to us. So we have to say, actually, remember, we're also in this country and we also need our share of this money for the £2 fare. Because you're right, I think that's made a difference to the cost of living crisis, to people finding it easier to access the bus, also from a cost point of view, but also simplification as well. But that costs money to continue, and it costs a lot of money. When we first put it forward, it's like half the BSIP money, wasn't it? I think, and that's a lot. It's millions of pounds. So I want us to be able to continue that, but people need to know that it's something that we defined here, but it does need to keep funding. This money is finite. I think just things for us to take offline probably from a Transport Committee point of view is asking for the extension. I don't quite understand why we're doing that, but we just need to have a look at how we're profiling those activities up until then, don't we? Because there are some things that are really important for us to be able to increase bus patronage, like the bits of junctions and things, which might not be very glamorous, but actually if we can get on with those, that makes a huge difference. So let's just check how we're profiling those schemes to make the most benefit quickest for the travelling public. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's something I raised with the bus minister that we can't lose out because we were innovative. We can't be the ones that are losing out just because we should. Exactly. So, any further comments, Matthew? Surely something on buses.
Go on then, just have a moan. But you are right. Where the government handles the buses a bit like the handle crisis when we have winter weather. Then they announce after the winter weather's gone, £100 million improvements to roads, but. It's not very lot when it comes down to council levels, and it's just the same with the bus network. It's pathetic in one respect, and I think we do need a longer strategy from the government. Hopefully a Labour government will give us that, where we can improve the services, as I keep saying, desperately needed in Wakefield.
Thank you, and your voice is always well heard, so thank you. You're a great champion for Wakefield. Okie doke, are we happy to approve this item? We are. Lovely. Thank you. Moving on to Autumn Statement 2023. This updates members on our submission to Treasury for the Autumn Statement in November, sets out our position in respect of this fiscal event, demonstrating devolution is working for West Yorkshire and that we're serious about going faster and further to bring about even more benefits for the region. Also, it emphasises our proven track record of delivery, demonstrating we are ready for a trailblazer Devo deal to grow our economy and to improve lives. We need government to work with us to meet our ambition, and we're urging the Chancellor to provide the necessary powers and investment to help us build that fairer, safer, just West Yorkshire that works for all. Our submission was produced in partnership with local authority colleagues and signed off by leaders and myself, demonstrating our shared commitment to devolution. And can I just particularly highlight my call for certainty, stability and fairness in local government funding, with a request for longer terms funding settlements, because we know successful devolution can't happen without strong and sustainable local authorities. So it was part of your pack. Are we happy to confirm, to note the West Yorkshire submission to Treasury for the Autumn Statement? Susan.
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly what we need. And as you say, Mayor, if the local authorities can't cover their finances, come back to everything at all. So we're part of the economic growth puzzle, if you like, of West Yorkshire, and all moving parts need to be working well together. So absolutely endorse this approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Team West Yorkshire. Any comments? No, happy to note it. Thank you so much. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you for taking the time today, and welcome to the officers that I've not met before, and thank you for your contributions as well. When's our next meeting, Ben?
I think it's the 18th of January. 18th
of January, so a wee ways away. And by then we will have our new advisor to also support the committee. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure.